And now for our program. Our own Dawn McCarty is here to speak with us. She's a longtime Catholic worker at Casa Juan Diego, a house of hospitality for undocumented migrant persons. Dawn has a ringside view of the human costs of our immigration policy and the need for action and justice. She is currently a professor of social work and director of the social work program at the University of Houston downtown. She will speak on the title of The Buddha's Awakening, and she'll begin with a story for all ages.
Thank you, everyone. This story for all ages has many sources, but this particular version is from the UU Association Spirit and Practice 10 workshops for Unitarian Universalist adults. Young Prince Siddhartha, who later became the Buddha, had been raised in complete luxury. His life had been so arranged that he knew nothing of suffering, no lack, no want. So when he first encountered suffering in the form of a sick person, an old person, and a dying person, he was determined to find its cause and its solution. For 6 years, he endured the most extreme self-denial the Hindu tradition of his day encouraged. Eventually, he sat himself down beneath the Bodhi tree, determined to remain in deep meditation until he solved the problem of suffering. For 6 days, he sat, and then he had an awakening through which he saw the deep truth of reality. He entered a state of perfect oneness and bliss, nirvana. And he was tempted to remain in this state, as one might be, for here there was no suffering, no struggle, no sorrow, no strife. But what good would it do for him to have found the solution to merely his own life sufferings? What would be the result of his determination if he alone attained nirvana while all other beings suffered on? Well, I'm back. Thank you so much. I'm quite emotional to be here today. It's been so long since we've been together in this community, and I see so many faces of people I love. Madeline, who I only see with her dog walking down my street. So good to see you. And Kay and Sandra, my loves. I may just cry before I even start. Thank you so much for this invitation. And I have a book that I have lost twice this morning already. And has anyone seen it? Have you seen it? It might be. Thank you. I know. I must have left it in the very back or the. That's okay. We will. No. Okay, we will carry on without it. I have a story I want to read, but we can do without it. So in a spirit of gratitude for being here and about what we're going to talk about today, I'd like to invite everyone here in person and also everyone on Zoom to join with me for just a moment in a meditation. To take a moment of our time to quietly center yourselves, to let go of any tensions or emotions that are not needed for the next short while, and to breathe deeply with me. No emails to return, no project to think about, no hurt feelings to ruminate on, nothing to do and nowhere to go. Just be here with me in gratitude and with this community for a little while. The point of meditation, of sitting underneath our own Bodhi tree, is to bring calm and relaxation, yes, but really the purpose is to quiet our minds, our busy and unruly thoughts and feelings, so that we see more clearly the interconnected web of our existence. That's nirvana, what the Buddha found. It's also beautifully described by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a famous sermon. Meditation helps us to see that, as he said, we are tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. And to the extent to which we don't realize this truth of our connectedness, our oneness, we suffer individually and as a community. My work as a Catholic worker at Casa Juan Diego for the past 12 years is perfectly summed up as an attempt to awaken by immersing myself into this interconnected web of our being, of our existence, this single garment of destiny with people on the margins of our society. For those of you who don't know me or don't know much about the Catholic Worker and movement or the Catholic Worker in Houston, Casa Juan Diego is an intentional community. We offer hospitality, not shelter, in 5 different houses where the staff, including me, live together in community and in solidarity with new migrant persons from all around the world. It's a tiny global village. Many of those are authorized and many are not. So we are living in real time right now with many migrant families from Haiti. We have an early window into the hotspots around the globe. And this political crisis has really been brewing in Haiti for some time, well before the earthquake even. So as much as we can in community together, we share, and the purpose of it is to share in vulnerability, the vulnerability that people can't do anything about at the moment. Vulnerability with the police, with ICE, with Homeland Security, with the larger community. They are not alone, and neither are we. We have 2 free health clinics. So we see a lot of and work a lot with health disparities. Provide food and financial support to hundreds of people a week in the larger community. Thousands actually during the height of the shutdown of the pandemic. We have a large garden, which I like to call our $1 million garden. It's on a $1 million piece of property, but for us it's a garden. And much, much more. I have in every moment the most incredible opportunity to connect and to be in solidarity with people suffering under the weight of our hurtful immigration policies and our upside down global economy. And this practice of compassion and service, what Catholics call the works of mercy, has transformed my heart. But not really all at once. It has been a slow but steady process, like how a bodybuilder tears a muscle a little bit at a time to make it bigger and stronger. Our days at Casa Juan Diego are filled with opportunities to care and to be cared for. I write about these experiences in the Christian Catholic Worker newspaper. There's one story I always have trouble finishing. I've written about it some, but I never quite tell it fully. No, I'm fine. So let me, I don't have my book, so let me tell it to you from my heart, which might be better. So it's an example of the many opportunities to enter into this tapestry. Many years ago, we had a family that I picked up from the bus station coming from Africa. It was a mother. She was in her 3rd trimester of pregnancy and 2 small children. They'd come such a far way, and in the escape and crisis in her country in Africa, she and her husband were separated, and he was likely dead or imprisoned. So they came to be with us. So she herself came up the continent, all the way up. And we thought she was a superhero. How she survived, she seemed fine. She seemed together for the first few hours we knew her. But once we got her settled, once we got her in her room and her children settled, bathed and clean and fed, we found out that she had been raped in Colombia several weeks before and was in need of urgent medical treatment. So we took her to, once we were settled, we took her to the emergency room and they admitted her for several days. And during that time, we, as we do in a community, we took care and scheduled around taking care of the children for her. And in that process, I became very attached to the 4-year-old boy. He was angry and sad all the time and would act out. And at some point in this caring, I just picked him up. And for days after that, I carried him around the house. We went everywhere together. I held him. He would lay his head on my shoulder. And I would tell him things in his ear about what a good boy he was and how he would be okay. Didn't know a word of English, but I knew he understood. And so we just held on to each other like this until it was time for them to go. Everyone cried, the mom, the kids, the staff. They were going to Portland where it's very cold. So a couple months later, we got a photo of the whole family completely covered up in warm clothing, winter clothing, playing in the snow. And it was probably the happiest moment I can remember in my lifetime. Everyone cried, but it was such a joyous moment. So the story of young Siddhartha, the young Buddha, illustrates perfectly the most important lesson that I have learned about my own spiritual development during these past 12 years. One key lesson, that most times we get things out of order. We're eager to change what's outside of ourselves. We try to find justice by helping or insisting that others change. I've learned about spiritual development that it isn't about changing the actions of others. It's not what it's about. The big issue of immigration reform and global migration, these big issues are far beyond me. Such an external focus led me early on to disappointment and disillusion in my work. But what I can do, and what the Buddha did, is change myself. I can transform my own heart through knowing the suffering of others, through feeding the hungry, visiting the imprisoned, counseling the troubled, holding a traumatized child. Certainly, if we were all part of the same tapestry, then the more I love, and then the more I love others, and the more I'm able to love, the greater impact I can have on the whole. Just like the pebble in the pond that many people speak of. Dorothy Day, the founder of the Catholic Worker Movement, called this very thing a revolution of the heart. Not a revolution of governments or armies, but of our own capacity to love in this world. Dorothy spent much of the first part of her life pushing every envelope, if you know much about her history. Protesting, writing, arguing, getting arrested for both the rights of women and laborers. But once she sat down in the company and community of others, in the first house of hospitality, after many years, she became awakened. We can't love God or any higher power, we can't make that connection unless we first love each other here on earth. I want to leave you with a question to consider. So I've shared a bit about my own journey towards awakening. So for you, what in your own life has awakened you to the world's suffering? What was it? Was it something in your own experience of injustice or suffering? And the suffering or injustice of others? Wherever you are in your journey, this is a good place to start again. So thank you as a community for your support of this work over the years. In particular, I don't get to say that enough, and the support of the work at Casa Juan Diego. And as always, you are welcome to join me to have this opportunity to work toward our own enlightenment in a way that sustains us all. Thank you so much.